Hi, I'm Anne-Marie Segal. Today's the day I've decided to make my channel public. These are my Italian video diaries. They should almost always be in Italian. Every once in a while I will throw in a video in English. Here's the thing, I don't want to say it's going to be every 20 videos or what the English will even be about, because I've had blogs in the past. They start to feel like work. The more rules that you set on yourself, the more you have these expectations that you're jumping to meet. And frankly, I have enough expectations in the rest of my life. This is supposed to be for fun. So the only quote rule that I've set for myself is to post a new video in Italian from about a minute to, well, they've been up to 20 something minutes, but you know, I'm going for the range of like 1 to 5, once in a while, maybe 15 minutes, maybe 20, on a rare occasion if I really get going. I am doing this to learn more Italian. I explained that in my intro video. I won't go over it again. As I've been doing these videos, and as I said today, woo, it's going to be go public day for the Video Diari. Segal Video Diari. It's going to be my YouTube handle. It has been actually for about a week and a half as I've been getting everything up to speed. As I've been talking to people about this project, a lot of people have asked me what are you doing to learn Italian? And I started by, frankly, just listening to videos in Italian while I was walking my dog. Not with the screen, just listening to them. And then sometimes I would listen to them again with the screen when I got home. And a lot of passive learning in that way, just kind of listening to it, taking in what I could, not grasping anything too hard to try to make sure that I understood it, but getting that faucet turned on, if you will, of the Italian coming into my brain. I'm not going to mention every channel that I listen to here in the video, but I will put some below. And one thing that Manu said, who is the Italian Made Easy guy, is your brain needs to know that Italian's important, that it should be taking this in. He was talking about the neuroscience for a hot minute. And, you know, teachers of foreign languages, much more than me, often know the best way to learn languages. Then again, this is my fourth, I always have to count because do I include English in this count this time? It's my fourth foreign language. Maybe even more than 4 if you count ones that I kind of learned a little bit about, but the fourth one that I'm trying to actually master in a way that I would be able to hold conversations with people. So, you know, you get some mileage in this sort of thing and you start to notice patterns in your learning. For example, one thing that I do all the time is, instead of trying to learn a word or even look up a word when I'm using a translate program, I don't look up the word beat, for example, because that could be so many different contexts. But, you know, I'm going to beat some eggs. I haven't actually looked this one up, but, you know, I'm going to beat the drums, or I'm going to beat you at poker. If I learned that whole sentence, the sentence I was trying to learn in Italian was me piace il mio cane perché non abbraia. And then I was like, oh, okay. That's a hard word to pronounce. I was working on it this morning. I'm not even sure I got it right. Perché non abbraia. Anyone who knows Italian, excuse me if I'm pronouncing it wrong. A ogni altro cane che vede. So what I'm trying to say with this sentence, and I'll mention another thing in just a minute. It reminds me of a second thing I often do. What I'm trying to do with this sentence is say, I like my dog because he doesn't bark at every other dog that he sees. Che vede. What I'm trying to do with this sentence is learn all of the words in the sentence and learn words in context. So I will regularly think of things for myself, like we're going out to a Spanish restaurant tonight. We don't always like to go to the same restaurant, you know, and come up with other sentences around an activity that I'm doing. Non vogliamo sempre andare. And then you have to say, okay, to the same restaurant. I believe it's al stesso ristorante. And so 2 other things I want to mention in this video that have been really helpful for me with language learning. One is to, as I said, not try to memorize, because honestly, I can look up that sentence about my dog or about the restaurant multiple times. I mean, now that most of us anyway, have smartphones, the rest of us have dictionaries, which is back how I learned other languages. It's pretty easy. And anyway, you can write it in a notebook, right? And just look back at what you wrote. It's pretty easy to review something multiple times. And the more times you review it, and that's part of why I'm doing this every day, because you need to create, you know, there's again, more neuroscience behind this, the idea of the spatial, I don't remember what it's called, but you're spacing out time for memorizing things. I tend to get too many things in my head and then can't remember everything something's called. Part of the reason I'm doing this project in the first place is to help boost dopamine and improve my memory in general. This project being like focusing on learning many different languages, sometimes all at the same time, building new neural pathways, etc. But memorizing is really good sometimes. Like, for example, memorizing a certain form of the subjunctive of the verb or something. You know, io fossi, lui fosse. Like, those are things you have to learn. But you don't need to memorize everything. You don't need to sit with a list and memorize it. It's kind of like when you play piano. You're going to play scales sometimes. I probably said this in Italian in another video, but it might not have been as clear because it was in Italian. Sometimes you play scales. Sometimes you're going to play songs where you're learning staccato. Sometimes you're going to play songs where you're learning how to balance your right and left hand, play chords while you're doing, and sometimes, you know, you'll do like a Bach convention or something where and both hands are going at the same time. This is the same thing with languages. You got to mix it up. So one time you are listening to a movie, another time you're having a conversation, another time you might be doing what I'm doing, which is just coming up with random things to talk about so that you can learn new vocabulary words. That's basically what I'm doing. And then I'm preserving it on a recording because I want to motivate other people to do things like this in their lives, to commit to some change and make it happen. I'm also kind of hoping that one day, you know, my kids might be interested and go back and look at it. And I certainly, after a year, because I've committed to do this for a year, wow. After that, I'll come back and look at what I've done and hopefully be able to see quite dramatic progress after, you know, 6 months, after 12 months. I had a third thing. I might have to, wow, I should really write these things down, but they occur to me as I'm talking, and a third thing occurred to me, and I might need to pause the video for a moment. Hey, okay, I got it. I had to go back and listen to my video to remember what popped into my head while I was talking. The third thing that's really important about languages, and I've actually just thought of a fourth one, is this. Don't expect the foreign language to operate the same way that your native language operates, or other languages that you've learned. So I know Spanish, for example, which is very similar to Italian, but I can't assume that Spanish and Italian are always going to be the same. And speaking of English versus Italian, I was talking about the restaurant. So we don't want to go to the same restaurant every time, and we are going to eat at a Spanish restaurant. So when you think about it in English, there's no reason we couldn't say we're going to eat in the restaurant, but we don't. We say at the restaurant. We do other things in somewhere, and some things we do at somewhere. I'm going, or even on, like I'm going to get on the bus, which should mean like on top of. My husband, who's a native Spanish speaker, sometimes I went in the bus. I'm like, well, that's actually more technically correct, but we say on the bus, you know. Same thing in foreign languages. You don't want to be thinking, well, that doesn't make sense because this one is nella, you know, in the restaurant, but you know, maybe it's at the restaurant, or maybe it's to the restaurant, or maybe they have some other thing that they're trying to say, which is different than what you would say in English, but that's okay because they're different languages. So drop expectations about how something should, quote, make sense, right? That's what we often do, is that doesn't make sense. Why should it be that way? That has really been my biggest key to learning foreign languages, is to stop saying, does it make sense? Unless I'm questioning if I have an intuition that that's not really how I remember it, that's a good use of does that make sense. But when you learn something new, you don't want to be saying, that doesn't make sense, the way something's spelled or whatever. If that's what it is in Italian or any other language, then that's what it is. When you do want to use the does that make sense test is, for example, when I said I often Google things in sentences. So one little trick I used, for example, when I'm using Google Translate, is I'll say, as a woman, comma. So, you know, as a woman, I'm excited. And then I'll get sono entusiasta instead of sono entusiasto, which would be for a man. It's just something I do to try to make sure the gender matches. And so often when I'm putting things into larger sentences, it helps me feed that program, that algorithm, essentially, the right context so that they can give me the right word. And then sometimes still I'll say, I don't think that's really it. And so then what I'll do is I'll go on to a general search engine and I'll type in the phrase or the word that I'm looking for and see what comes up and double check. I was looking up a word in French the other day, may make it into a video at some point. Entretien d'entente, what was it? Well, it was the word for job interview, which frankly is not something I knew in Italian. In French. Don't know it in Italian either. Hasn't come up yet. What I wanted to say is it was a word that didn't look, and still, I'm still learning it. Like this is one of those things, I didn't try to memorize it. I'm going to just keep saying it over and over again. And eventually it will truly sink in. But I said, that's not what I would have expected the word to be. I know the word emploi, a job. That's what I would have expected to be in the word, or, an anglicization, saying interview. Anyway, if I Google it, not using Google Translate, and I don't work for Google, you can use any search engine, but if I put it in a search engine, I can see what comes up. I can see the Reddit conversations about it. I can see where people use it in context. There's like a reverso context, I think it's called, where they put words into sentences. You can see how things are used. So there's a lot of use of technology now. You can also use ChatGPT, obviously, or another AI function to kind of check your work so that you know if your intuition is telling you, is this right? You can check it. Or if you want to make sure that you're actually doing something right. Now, I don't suggest that you use it to just translate and then post things, because ChatGPT as well, they're all just programs. They're not like talking to a native speaker or someone who's truly fluent in the language. I have noticed quite a few errors, but I would say, it's probably good. 90+%, I don't know if the number is 98 or 99 or 97. That's not my field, but I can tell you that 1+% probably makes a huge difference in some cases. And so you don't want to get it wrong. The last thing that occurred to me as I was thinking, what is the third thing, is this, which is have fun. The most important thing when you're trying to learn a language is that it excites you, because it's how, again, going back to neuroscience, it's how our brains are set up. So if something is exciting to you, interesting, it draws you in, your brain is going to remember it. If something's really boring, your brain is not going to remember it. So on that note, for example, if you like art history, or you like tennis, or you like something in science or neuroscience, or you want to learn how to polish silver, or you want to learn how to draw well, now I'm in art again, but draw a skeleton. You want to learn whether dogs are able to, we all know they can't eat chocolate, right? But you could look that up in the target language, and maybe more about, the science of dogs, or the training your dog, or things like that. So anything that's interesting to you, you can use to help you learn that foreign language. I use foreign languages to help me get on the treadmill more often, because that way I reward myself with something I really want to do. And I find walking on the treadmill rather boring, but I get around my neighborhood walking my dog. He walks pretty dang slow. And so I need to supplement that quite a bit. So that's something I do. I find some movie I want to watch, and it keeps me going. So I'm sure you'll find your own tricks and tools, and I wish you best of luck in learning languages if that's what you want to do. And if there's some other change that you want to make in your life, and for some reason you still happen to be watching this, I'm rooting for you. This could be your month, your year, your day that you start something important in your life. Ciao! Alla prossima volta.